Jason, tied for the second best start in NBA history. In your opinion, what has been the single most impressive part of this 15-0 start for these Cleveland Cavaliers?
It's actually sort of what I touched on at the Open. For me, it's the depth and the fact that Evan goes out and you hang 144 on a team in the NBA, and you actively sit Donovan to rest him, and you still hang 128 on the Hornets. But the fact that you can go as deep down this roster as they have and still get the production that they have, Karis LeVert is having the season of his career. He leads the league in plus. I think he still leads the league in plus minus. He did as of the other night. Yeah, and Dean Wade, who I've been talking about Dean Wade for years, that there's something there, guys. He just has to stay healthy, and that's still true. He's got to be healthy for the postseason. It's something he hasn't been the last 2 years. And Sam Merrill, a guy like Sam Merrill, who they picked up on the margins, and you saw a little bit out of it last year. And now you're seeing more of it, and how far down they can go in this roster. And obviously everybody knows the Ty Jerome story and how remarkable that's been. And the guy just came out of nowhere. He's been a bit player in the NBA, and he's playing out of his mind. And I don't know why Dustin Hopkins stats pop up there.
Facts.
But just how deep this team is, and Kenny Atkinson's commitment to continue to play all of them as long as he can, and to keep this rotation. By doing that, you keep everybody's minutes down. And Jarrett's peaked up the other night because Evan was out, but still, it wasn't anything obnoxious. What was he, 36 against the Bulls on Friday night?
Minutes?
Yeah. I think
35 and a half.
Yeah, which is fine because Evan was out and whatever. But the fact that they continue to follow the plan and that they'll sit Donovan, despite having this incredible winning streak, to actively sit him and say, we can win without him, we can continue this without him, speaks to the depth on this team right now.
Is Ty Jerome the new Jeremy Lin, and can he keep it up?
I thought that Friday when we were talking to Legler, I almost asked him, because I remember Legler and I were talking about, we were there together when Jeremy Lin was happening, and I almost asked him that, but we ran out of time. But I wonder that, too.
Hopefully. I mean, what was really stood out, by the way, guys, is yesterday was the first time he'd been a starter and played starter minutes.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, is he going to get exposed? I know they're not playing a great team, but he just took what he was doing over a few minutes, and it carried over. I mean, look at those numbers. That's fantastic.
I think the David Fry comparison is very apt. I think that's pretty. I think it's pretty similar to what we're seeing with Ty. Listen, if you're asking him to start 82 games and play 30, 35 minutes a night, you're probably not going to get this. But in the right moments, when you play him in the right spots, he's been a huge part of this team. You can't deny how important he's been.
Doesn't every team need that?
Yeah.
A reliable bench guy that can pick up valuable minutes. He's even done it in the clutch, come in, played big minutes, and thrown daggers.
Yeah.
When the game's in the balance.
And Kenny Atkinson was asked afterwards, why'd you choose Ty Jerome to fill in for Donovan as opposed to Karis, who typically in the past, if either Donovan or Darius had been out, had filled in the starting lineup. And he said, we felt good with either, but we wanted to reward Ty for playing so well through the first 14 games. Cool. He had earned the opportunity for an increased role. 100%. And in that increased role, Steve, pull up his game stats again, 29. I mean, on the season, Donovan Mitchell's averaging 24.6 points and 4 assists. And last night, Ty Jerome filling in for Donovan Mitchell gave you 24 and 8.
What's
how
he
often
signed
can
for?
you?
Is he a 1 year or 2 year?
He signed a 2-year deal last year, so this is the last year of his 2-year deal.
Oh, man.
Oh, yeah, we don't have him under contract, Jason.
Him and Karis.
You left Ty Jerome out of the mix.
I left Ty Jerome out of it. Him and literally.
What a find he's been.
If you go ahead.
No, go.
Wait, Bo, real quick before you mention that, because I want you to. The Cavs have tried to get Ty Jerome for a while now. This was not just a random free agent signing last year. Kobe Altman has liked Ty Jerome for years, and they've tried to get him. Weren't able to pry him away. He ended up signing with Golden State. He's been on the Cavs' radar for a while, and they were thrilled to sign him last year, and that's why it was so weird when he rolled his ankle in the second game of the season.
That makes Kobe look like a mad genius.
They've done a nice job with, again, we've talked about this for years. This part isn't anything new. We've talked about their ability to find and develop guys on the margins. They did it with Dean Wade. You can throw Ty in there. Sam Merrill. Who was the guy, I'm blanking, a couple years ago. Wasn't much of a shooter, but played an important role in their team.
Stevens?
Yes, thank you. Lamar Stevens.
I forgot about that guy.
So they've done a nice job of, and this is how you have to do it in the NBA. And there's more and more examples of guys like this that, there's only 30 first-round picks. And Kobe has always, and he and I had gone around and around on this. I had never really seen the value in second-round picks, and he sees value in them. Also, to use them as sort of capital to move up and down. They were able to bundle a bunch of second-round picks and move up and get Kevin Porter Jr. It didn't work, but it was a good shot to take, and the talent was there. Just the immaturity level sort of cost him in his time here. But they've done a nice job, really, with sort of the undrafted guys and guys who have been cast-offs by other teams. And I talked to Mike Brown last year when Sacramento was in town. They had Sam. And he said, I love Sam Merrill, but I can't remember who the player was now. They picked someone over him because they felt like they needed a little bit more size. And Mike's like, we missed. We should have kept Sam. And there's a lot of examples of that, of guys who bounce around from, they just need time. They need time to develop. And organizations, for one reason or another, run out of time with them, and then they go somewhere else, and it clicks for them. And Sam seems to be an example of that. How old is Sam? What is he, like 27? He's not young.
Sam Merrill?
Yeah.
I'll look it up. But no, he's older than you think because he played in the G League till he was 25.
Right.
So.
Yeah, he might be like 28. I don't remember now. But he's not young. But he's
Merrill's
one of the,
28.
Okay.
Turns 29 this season.
Okay, there you go. So, but he's a guy that just needed time to develop his game, to find his proper place. And they've done a nice job of finding those guys on the margins.
It's something to be said about the Cavs because we just killed Jimmy Haslam in the last segment. But Dan Gilbert has not been far from that. Dan Gilbert's reputation has been checkered. We don't remember it because, he has got the LeBron back. But we talked about before that, we talked about the championship run before LeBron came back. We said, hey, you had LeBron, the best player in the world, for how many years? 7, 8 years, you didn't put a team around him. We talked about, Jason talks about all the time how Dan Gilbert had his fingerprints on everything, from the minute things to the huge things. But it just goes to show you that, yes, coaching matters. Yes, the way you evaluate talent in markets like this really, really, really matters. Because if you think about it, what set them up the right way was, hey, you got Donovan Mitchell. He stayed. He became a cornerstone and a piece and a part. You hit on Evan Mobley. You got Darius Garland, and then you were able to rehabilitate him to a certain extent and get him back to what he was before. And you made smart trades like going to trade for Jared Allen, right? Those are things that you could do to get yourself back into a championship window. But what puts you over the top is the Ty Jeromes. What puts you over the top is the Dean Wades. Those are the guys, you go back and look at what Denver was able to do when they won a championship. Those are, you can look at any team, the Norris Coles during the Miami Heat time, the Mario Chalmers back then, even with the Boston Celtics, the Eddie Houses, and guys like that are the big Baby Davises that are on the fringes, that every time you would turn the game on, you'd be like, man, KG is struggling, but they got Big Baby Davis. They got 12 points. Those are the dudes that kill you. And the Cavs have multiple guys like that now that all have different skill sets and that really match and fit. I'll be interested to see their demeanor when they play Boston, because it'll be really impressive if they go out there and look at Boston and play like, we don't respect y'all. Y'all good, but we feel like we could play with you. Like if they win that game,
I can guarantee that's their mindset. They are not scared of anybody right now. They said it last night. Darius Garland said last night in the post game, for the first time in my career, I'm the hunted. I've been the hunter my entire life, and I like being the hunted. And he was the last one to talk, so we didn't get to follow up with anyone else to see if they had the same mindset. But he said, unprompted, by the way, it wasn't – someone asked him just about the matchup with Boston, and his words were, no, we're the hunted now. We're the big dogs. Like, they're coming for us, not the other way around.
I was talking to Tristan Friday night after the game, and I said, like, and the fact that tomorrow night's an NBA Cup game makes it all the better. And, like, last year I dismissed, and I still think it's kind of silly. I still think this NBA whole thing is just silly. But it gives them something to play for, and it creates high-pressure, high-leverage moments at a time that otherwise wouldn't.
That's why I like it.
And I told Tristan, hey, go for it. Like, go for it. Go all out for this. And he said, yeah, like, for sure, because what better experience? For as good as this team is, they still don't have a ton of experience in those high-pressure. Last time was their first time in the conference semifinals. And every round everything gets ratcheted up. Sure. So go get the experience of lifting a trophy, even if it's like sort of a silly little trophy that I don't know. You know, I was laughing last year when the Lakers raised it. They were like, "Oh, what do we do with this thing? We're supposed to hold it up and celebrate it like we do, you know, a normal championship." But just get the experience of winning something that matters, winning something that's meaningful, and lifting the trophy, even if it's not the actual one. Hey, that's still experience that you can go back on. If they win this NBA Cup thing, that's still something that can carry over to when it really matters. And for everyone that sort of dismissed the Indiana Pacers for making it to the Cup last year, they also made it to the conference finals. And I still wouldn't call Indiana a top 3 team in the East, but I have to believe that one certainly played a part in the other.
Competition is huge. Like when you playing and practicing, and McNuggets knows this, when you in basketball, you know, coaches do a good job of everything is competition. Everything is, whether it's free throws, whether it's who's running suicide and baseline sprints, whether it's shootout, or can we get 3 stops in a row? Teams who are hyper competitive. I finally watched the, what is it called, the Swamp Story with Tim Tebow and them with Urban Meyer.
Yeah.
And they talked about how it was like, yo, we wasn't going out to them clubs at 12 o'clock. We got up every night at 12 midnight and we worked out by ourselves. And they were like, we were going in here maxing out. Guys are busting their tails, and that was what we was looking for at 12. You know,
I think Aaron Hernandez.
Aaron was definitely going out.
Yeah.
well, I mean, he lifted them weights, and then got his pistol, and then he
lifted
went out.
them bodies.
He might have lifted his weights with his pistol.
My goodness, Tim Tebow was even praying for the man, and it just didn't really work.
Those prayers were not answered.
Just wild, but look. If they gonna win that championship, listen, I was laughing back. Sam Merrill, part of the greatest summer league squad of all time, hosted that trophy. Look how it jettisoned them right now to a position.
Jay, what's been the most impressive part of the
Summer League? I can't put the Summer League trophy.
Some of those dots connect. I can't connect that.
You see him and Porter Jr. You look how they've transitioned.
I'll allow the NBA Cup. You can't get me to the Summer League Cup.
Let me put warm water on that real quick. The Cavs were 0-4 in the preseason this year.
Jay, what's been the most impressive thing in this 15-0 run in your mind?
Their depth. I'm just blown away by their depth. It's almost like it happened overnight, but it really hasn't. It's been there all along. It just needed the right chef. The ingredients were there, and last year they were thrown into a crock pot, and the meal was okay. It was okay.
Yeah.
But this year, everything's been sautéed and seasoned and flavored, and you're not putting this ingredient in until last, because when you do, it pulls out some of this ingredient, and it takes a master chef to know how to do that. And I feel like, and I know it's way too early to proclaim him a mad scientist and some kind of a genius, but Kenny is just hitting all the right buttons, pulling all the right levers. I love the fact that he said of last night's game, Donovan is scheduled to sit. He's going to sit. We're going to give him a steamroll of rest going into a Boston game, which is obviously going to take more effort. So he's got so many resources. He's able to say, okay, I'm going to take this one, put that over there, you get healthy, and this one's going to go over here, and this one's going to come from here, and I'm going to put him into the starting role, and then we're going to see what happens. And you talk about the in-season tournament. I was worried when they were playing the Bulls, because that was the game, right? The
Friday Bulls.
Yeah, I was worried a little bit about that, because I'm like, damn, even if they win this game, the point differential, which matters, is going to be 3 or 5. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden, and this was what I most loved about Friday night, there was 18 seconds to go or something, and Donovan Mitchell's like, yep, take that.
Yep.
You never,
pushing
ever,
the ball.
The
ever
crowd
see
went
that.
crazy.
I was going crazy in my house. I was going crazy.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, oh, that's a killer instinct I've never seen before.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, he took the shot because the point differential matters.
Right.
And then they came back on the ensuing possession and played defense. So they are very much aware of everything in this moment. They're aware of the record. They're aware of this in-game tournament and how it's very important. They know Boston's already lost.
Yeah.
Boston's in their group.
Yeah.
Boston lost to Atlanta. So if they win this, they're going to come out of this group in a very, very good position. So I just love everything. There is really nothing about this 15 games that I could even say, oh, I don't like this. I like it all.
I think the most important thing to me, though, Mike, is ultimately Evan Mobley, because of all of it, Like, we've seen Donovan be great. We've seen Josh Allen. We've seen
Jared Allen.
Jared Allen. Couldn't think of his
Darius
name for a second.
Garland.
We've seen Darius Garland be great before. I know it's new with Ty Jerome, but, like, this is it. This is the player that Jason's been telling us for 4 years has to be great. Okay. And for 3 years, it never looked like it was going to happen on offense.
Right.
It didn't.
I was wavering.
I think we all
You
were.
had me on the ropes.
Jason
His
and I both.
offensive game
You had me on the ropes last year.
was like this.
Yeah.
And then it went up here.
I was really discouraged.
And he is a completely different player. He plays with confidence like we've never seen. He is playing like an absolute dog
And
right
Legler
now.
said Friday, look, guys just develop at different times.
Yeah.
This is year 4 for him.
Yep.
He talked about some guys he plays with took 6. Some take 2. I think giving Atkinson a lot of the credit because he's this player development guy. But Legs is like, he gets some of the credit.
He gets a lot of the credit.
But ultimately, Mobley has to do the work.
That's
Mobley
right.
has to.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Yeah,
Evan gets the credit.
Mobley has to see the beast within and believe it, and he has now.
That's why I joked after like 5 or 6 games, JB's got to be sitting in Detroit going, "Oh sure, now you decide
Now
to do
you're
this.
gonna be that
Where
guy."
was this when I was
By
here?"
the way, the Pistons are 7-8.
He's doing a great job in
Yes, he
Detroit.
is.
And you said when he went there, he's the perfect guy
He's
for
the
where
perfect
Detroit
guy,
is.
yes.
Because Detroit is now where Cleveland was when
a
he
couple
came
years
here.
ago.
So all right, listen, we be doing all this flowery stuff, and y'all like, oh, these guys are great. But deep down in your heart, y'all know if we were like, yo, we gonna pick today, and you gotta pick, what percentage chance do you say the Cavs can win a championship?
Oh, Watson, much greater than it was when the season started.
Percent.
And I think what Jay said is the real point.
What, just for any team in any given year, what's the highest reasonable percentage generally?
30,
40,
maybe
35.
maybe
that's
35.
high.
That's 1 in 3.
I'm saying like when the Warriors had KD. Like
if you're talking about a
Like, yeah.
dynastic team, it's probably
Well, that's
35.
what Bull just said. What's
Yeah.
the highest? Like I think that's your.
But here's the way I do it. How many teams can you legitimately
just pulling
say-
that up.
Yeah,
I was just pulling that
and
up
if
to
it's
look.
6, then it's an 18% chance.
I'll give you context. When the Cavs when LeBron from 14 to 18, they went to the finals every year, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
I would give him a 70% chance every year.
Do you give this team as constituted a higher chance than any of those LeBron teams?
No.
But here's the thing.
Not yet.
We talked about this.
different league.
Yes.
It is a different league. That's why.
This is a new NBA.
one player could take you to a title,
It's
especially with a
It's
wingman.
a different NBA. There's and previously you would never think of a 5 or 6 seed could make the finals or win a championship. That's not the case anymore.
That
They
18
can't.
Well, look at Indiana last year.
I'm putting this team over the 18 Cavs.
Well, you
terms
also have to look at the competition.
The 18 Cavs, they made it to the finals. They had LeBron and Rodney Hood. This team is better than that one.
You also were going against
That team
an
still had
absolute.
LeBron.
You were going against a wagon in the Warriors of
Yes.
KD and Steph that you knew
It doesn't exist now.
That doesn't. Yeah, that team isn't really out there. So I mean, I would give this team a better chance, I guess, than. I mean, that 2017 Cavs team is the most talented Cavs team I've ever seen. Period.
Yeah.
And they happen to run into a Warriors team that won 73 the year prior with Kevin Durant. So it's hard to say because it's completely different eras.
I think this team may be better than that 2018 team, but ultimately LeBron is LeBron.
Right.
And when
Yeah.
you have LeBron, you always have a better chance
It's
to
the
win a
X factor.
championship.
So you can
especially
figure
in
this
his prime.
out. What are the odds that they win the championship today?
Yeah, can I add one more thing to the
Yes.
impressiveness of
Yes.
the start? There is no, like I go back and think of some of the mid 2010s teams that like when tanking was at its peak.
Yeah.
And some of those bad Sixers teams, they had maybe one guy in their 12-man rotation who would play on a good team. I go back to some of those Nets teams when they were going through their dormant years and they were
Right.
starting Jordan Farmar and Sheldon Williams and just Sean Steele, like absolute nobodies. You look at every team in the NBA now. There's talent across the board. And on any given night, you can get got by anybody. Look at the Hornets last night.
Yeah.
They don't necessarily play winning basketball, and some of their guys aren't necessarily winning style players. But like LaMelo Ball's a hooper. Brandon Miller can play. Josh Green is like a valuable role. Grant Williams was on a playoff team. They've beaten all these teams that have depth. The league is just deeper and more talented than it's ever been, and with a 3-point variance, like the Hawks when they beat the Celtics without Trae Young. We're 17-point underdogs, by the way. It just takes one team getting crazy hot from 3 to knock off an undefeated team or to pull off a crazy upset. And through 15 games, we're literally 4 weeks into the season. Like, the season started 4 weeks ago, and the Cavs still haven't lost. And they've put up against barrages from random teams on random nights. The Nets, for example, like this year. Cam Johnson can play on a playoff team. Cam Thomas is a 30-point-per-game scorer. Dennis Schroeder, not a great point guard, but he's serviceable. They just signed Nick Claxton to an extension. They're beating teams that have talent, and they're not going through, you played 15 games, but 7 were against teams that were trying to obliviously tank. All these teams are trying to win. The lottery odds are evened out. Bottom 4 teams all get the same percentage. So the fact that they're not just consistently winning, but they're beating teams that have legitimate NBA guys, maybe not 1 through 5, but at least 1 through 3 and a couple other pieces, I think makes, in context, 15-0 even more impressive.
I guess the question more is, where do you have the Cavs? Like right now today, do you think they have a better chance than the Celtics of winning a championship?
I think they're even right now with the Celtics.
I would say they're even. I would say more than any other year, their path is very visible. We talked about it. Milwaukee is playing horrible. Like,
but it's early. It's a long season.
I get it, but the Sixers, I mean, like, they're playing horrible. All these teams with these superstars that you would thought were going to be like in contention, the Cavs will be the number 1 or number 2 seed if things continue to go the way they are, and then they will play the Boston Celtics in the Eastern Conference Finals.
What does Vegas say? Who right now is the
Cavs still had the
Celtics?
As of last week, we're still 8th to win the championship.
Well, I'd jump on that before it changes, because that's not
probably changed even since then.
Up to the minute right now, I'm pulling up FanDuel, who's a sponsor. I got to get a read-in for FanDuel in 1 second. But the Cavs are 15-1 to win the championship right now. The 7th best odds, or tied for 6th best odds in basketball.
Who's ahead of them?
I think that's a play. I think
Boston is plus 260.
Okay.
They have the best odds. Oklahoma City 5-1. The Knicks 8-1.
Let's put a show bet on that. Let's get a pool of money, and let's put a show bet on the Cavs at 15-1. I like that.
Who else is ahead
and
of
I don't bet.
You said they're 5th, Mike?
7.
No, then the
7.
Mavericks are 10-1, the Timberwolves 13-1, and they're tied with the Nuggets and the Suns at 15-1. And the Warriors, who by the way are the 1 seed in the West at 10-2, are 25-1.
Wow.
There's a lot of teams the Cavs better than. There's a lot of
The Cavs are playing better basketball than any team in the league.
Yeah.
Right,
now.
but it's not about who's playing the best
And if you
basketball in
want to
November.
argue, should they be 1, 2, 3 because you want to put someone else a little higher, then whatever. But
as a gambler,
they're
when
playing
you
elite.
see that they're
Oh, it's great
7,
value.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
you're like,
Great
wait a
value.
minute,
I'm
that's a
down.
value bet.
Yeah, it is. The Suns are still sort of the old school model. Like, they're the one team still trying to play, not the one, but they're a team still trying to play the old way with like a top-heavy roster. There's a lot of holes on that roster, though, and they're still trying to do it the old way. The Thunder, I was joking with Tristan the other night. The NBA is going to lose its mind when it's a Cavs Thunder NBA Finals for the next 3 years.
Man, you aren't kidding.
Like, they will.
Be a
And both
ratings
those teams are set up
disaster.
for future success tremendously.
Yeah,
well.
there are no. Mike and I were talking about this. I think I'm going to write about this for tomorrow. There are no healthier cap sheets going forward than the Cavs and the Thunder in the NBA for
Well, what I
set up
love
for
about
long-term
that is
sustainable success.
I think the NBA righted a wrong. The NBA was going down a dangerous rabbit hole in that it was becoming like Major League Baseball. The coastal population centers had a huge advantage over everyone else because they could spend more money on players. And you were seeing all of those big threes, Boston, Miami, LA,
Not New York.
Golden State, not New York. Well, New York is kind of like the
Brooklyn.
Browns of the NBA.
No, Brooklyn was.
Brooklyn was trying. They were trying.
weren't any good,
But what I
though.
liked about it was the NBA made the decision, that's great for the select few, but it's not the best interest of the league. Let's grow the league. They've leveled the playing field for all teams, and it's interesting that it's the middle of America teams, the Minnesota, Oklahoma City, Cleveland, that have sort of figured this out. And now, when the ratings numbers come in from the finals,
That's it.
that's when you pay the piper.
Yep.
And that's why baseball right now is laughing all the way into the 2025 season. They didn't care who won. Once New York and LA got in, they won.
Yeah.
And that's what I talked about last year when Boston won and everyone's throwing their hands up going, well, who'd they play? I'm like, guys, this is what you get.
what
This
it's
is
gonna be.
this is the trade-off to the parity is you're going to keep saying, well, who do they play? Well, who do they play? Because there is no Miami Heat team of the Wade, LeBron, Bosh years. There's no Cavs of Kevin, Kyrie, LeBron. the Warriors, like those teams that the NBA is actively
You
trying
can't do it
to
anymore.
disassemble that. And which is why I've said it before, when you start hitting those tax thresholds, you better be whole. You better have a whole team, because if you get into that and you still need to look for this, this, and this, you're not going to be able to find it. And that's why by the Cavs signing all the guys that they have, where's their, like, we have to do a thing for the Athletic coming up of like what's this team's biggest need going to the trade deadline. I'm like, I don't know. They're 15-0. You tell
what it
me.
is? Health.
What's their need?
It's health.
Yeah, it
That's
really.
it.
But
Yeah.
like in terms of a roster piece, they are a whole team, and they haven't even hit those tax thresholds.
Jason, if you had to bet right now on the Celtics or Cavs winning a championship, who are you betting on?
Oh man, see the Boston has the pedigree. They have the championship experience. That's huge. The Cavs haven't made it even to a conference finals yet. If they're healthy, if both teams are healthy, I think it's a coin flip. And I'm not trying to dodge it, but I really think it's a coin flip. And that's, I mean, I've come a long ways. Just in going that
Oh,
far.
at the beginning of the year, I would have said 95-5 Celtics.
I don't know if it would have been that big. I would have said 85-15.
Now I'm like, I think I'd still have to give a slight edge
I'll
to
tell
the
you tomorrow
Celtics,
night
but-
at 10 o'clock.
Yeah, well,
Yeah,
I mean,
we'll see what happens tomorrow, right?
I thought at the beginning of the year, I thought Boston, Milwaukee were clearly better than Cleveland, and the Knicks. I kept going back and I think some days I said the Knicks were, and some days I said no, they weren't. So like, I had them at fourth at best, or third at best, and maybe fourth. And obviously Milwaukee's completely unraveling. They're trying to put the wheels back on. The Knicks, we'll see. You know, they still got to do it in the playoffs.
Is Paul DePodesta helping the Bucks? Can you look into that?
The only team right now that you could say is better than the Cavs would be the Celtics. That's the only team. in the
55.
East.
I mean, right now, I don't
And
think
even
you can
that-
say any team. Is
even
better,
that is
but
a coin flip.
55-45 Celtics.
I would
I'll
give
them.
them.
I'll
Yeah, I give the
edge.
Celtics a slight
They have
edge
the
right now.
They have the
They're the
championship
champs.
pedigree.
Yeah, you
They're
got it.
champs.
They've done it.
Yeah.
And that matters in the NBA.
Yes,
it
playoff
does.
experience matters. I got to get a quick reading, guys.